Whoa. Let's turn that off. Getting some. Whoa. Let's turn that off. All right. Bear with me here, getting set up. Didn't get to start on time here. Let's try that one more time. Uno momento. All right. Didn't really get a chance to start this up the way that I wanted to tonight. Still kind of learning the ropes of some live streaming with some music playing and things like that. StreamYard isn't being very kind to me. We will edit this out for uh, the audio version, let's say. All right, we don't need any music. That's not what we're going to do. Hey, so welcome to the Draw or Die podcast. This is podcast number 3. I'm your host, DJ Kaufman. I'm a cartoonist. My mission with the Draw or Die brand is to help artists stay encouraged and to live a more sustainable, creative life. In today's episode, I'm going to dive a little further into what that actually means, the sustainable life part. And first up, right off the top of the show, I want to send my condolences to the friends and fans of artist Carlos Pacheco, who passed away yesterday at the age of 60. Carlos was a tremendous talent in comics, working on numerous titles for Marvel and DC Comics over the years. And earlier this year, he announced taking a break from comics to deal with some health issues. I guess his leg had gone numb and he was seeing a neurologist for that. And then they thought maybe it was a compression of the nerves in his spine. So he went and had some spinal surgery and announced that he would be gone for maybe 8 to 12 months of recovery, which that's a lot of time off for a comic book artist. I know he did pretty well, but that's pretty scary when you're an artist, a working artist like that, to think I'm going to be holed up for 8 to 12 months. So he had posted then when he went away, hey, please don't forget me. I'll be back. He said, I'll be back, I hope. But in September, he kind of posted to his disbelief that he had been diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And that's a truly terrible disease. And even though he knew that he was like facing, what was facing him, he wanted his fans to know that he lived a life that's gone beyond his wildest childhood dreams. To grow up and draw comics and do that for a living. He said, nobody feel bad for me. I'm a lucky guy that he was able to do that through his wildest childhood dreams. So, wow. On September 28th, he had posted his very last piece of art for Marvel Comics Damage Control number 2. And anyways, very sad. 60s far too young. It's been a crazy tough year for the the comics market, losing a lot of artists like George Perez, Tim Sale, Neil Adams, Kim Jong-gi. Yeah, it's just been, quite a heavy a heavy time in comics. A really sad time for comic fans and creators. To me, it's always a reminder that tomorrow isn't promised, and you just don't know what is going to be served up to you. Right? I'll get to that in a little bit more in a bit. But back to what Carlos was saying about feeling bad for him, like don't feel bad for me because I got this ALS. That was kind of an echo of Lou Gehrig himself, and I just happened to be reading a book that was covering Lou Gehrig, and for those that don't know, a little bit beyond our time, I guess now, but Lou Gehrig was known as like the Iron Man of baseball for the New York Yankees. And he played 2130 games in a row without missing one. He held the record for that for a very, very long time. And he had to take himself out of the lineup. That's the only way that he left the game, was he took himself out. He told his coach, if I ever start feeling like I'm not up to it, that's when I'll go. And he just wasn't playing his best. And he retired at the age of 36, which it just seems crazy. Like 36 seems like so young to me now. But 36 years old, guys, like that's crazy young. He has an iconic farewell speech at Yankee Stadium where he talks about being stricken with this disease. He says, he calls it a bad break. He says, hey, you might have heard that I got a bad break. And he said, but don't feel sorry for me, because he considered himself the luckiest man on earth. So truly incredible story. I bet Carlos knew that story. Just the way that he responded, the way he was responding to this diagnosis. It's just quite a way to go. He says, don't worry about me. I live my dream. But hey, 60 is far too young, in my opinion. So anyways, yeah, there's a great chapter in Ryan Holiday's new book, Discipline is Destiny, that I'm reading about Lou Gehrig. And at the end of that chapter, I mean, it just makes me feel incredibly lazy. At the end of that chapter, Ryan asks, hey, Lou Gehrig played 2,100 games in a row. He started a chain of doing something every day. And what are you doing every day? And of course, my mind went to drawing daily, drawing every day. And so what are you doing today? Right? And of course, that really did make me think of like, wow, how I used to romanticize the daily comic strips. I think when I was a kid, I wanted to definitely be a daily comic strip artist, whether it was adventure comics or humor strips. Those were the first things that I ever tried to submit into, sending away to syndicates and things like that, putting together my 3 months of samples. And, that's a ton of hard work to get done doing a daily grind, but I really romanticize about it, even till today. So my wife will say, like, don't do that. Do not launch a daily comic strip. Don't do it. If somebody would pay me to do it and pay me handsomely to do it, I would be drawing a daily comic strip. I still romanticize about that. And who knows? You never know what's going to happen, guys. My wife's not here right now, so maybe I'll launch a daily comic. No, I won't launch a daily comic strip. Don't worry about that, Alicia. Don't worry. But yeah, this is a damn shame, So raising a glass to Carlos Pacheco, crossing the Rainbow Bridge into the great unknown. Thanks for all he left behind for us to absorb and learn from. And thanks for the grace in showing us all how to go. So Stay lucky, everyone. And what a fantastic, not fantastic, but to me it is fantastic that you could be facing something so dreadful, a freight train coming at you, bad luck, and you're like, hey, I'm the luckiest person. If they still feel like the luckiest person on earth, it's incredible. I don't know if I could ever have that much grace. It's very scary to think about um, those kind of things to me. Um, and that said, it's been a tough week for me, so I didn't even think I was going to come live tonight. Um, and that was one of the reasons. It was just a tough emotional week, very tough at work, at the day job, and frankly, just pretty draining. There wasn't much left in my creative gas tank. And a couple hours ago, I was thinking about Carlos and Lou and so many of my friends who would have, if they could just have a few more minutes together, they'd be like, "Hey, what are you tired, brother? Get on this stream because you said you'd be there." But yeah, this week was very tough, and I did draw, but nothing really that I felt that I was putting on paper or pixels just didn't feel like it was worth showing to the world. And I know I'm getting messages all the time from other artists thinking the same thing, and I go through the same exact thing. Um, should I post this? This looks like junk, or what am I doing? You know, easily crumble up paper after paper after paper if I could. But this week I just didn't even have much time to draw. So even though I did draw every day, I just was not happy with anything I was doing. It just felt like, the corporate world stuff that I deal with was really draining into my creative spirit. Um, so tonight, I'm going to practice what I preach, and I'm going to open up a random prompt, and I'm going to try and draw it out live here while I talk about some other issues and maybe take some of your questions and just talk together for a little while and see how it goes. And that's what was on my mind. I almost didn't show up, but what else am I going to do tonight? Sit on the couch and watch um, the new Star Wars show? I already did that. I did that during dinner tonight, but don't worry. And I could have just stayed there. I could have just stayed uh, watching TV and not just kind of retreating from the world, let's say. And I think like a lot of artists, we all do that. Like want to just stay in bed and pull the covers over your head or just hide away from the world. Um, it's probably not healthy to do that either. So, and I was tired. I was very tired. Um, Realistically, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm supposed to be, doing some things for myself, but lately, other life things keep climbing into those early morning hours, and that really just does not set my day very well. Um, but it's your own fault. You got to kind of discipline yourself to push through that, whatever that thing is. Um, for me, it's a little bit of day job stuff. And we're going to get into that too as I talk about sustainable creative life this time as I'm drawing. And so let's look at this creative prompt today. The clock stopped at 3 a.m. I'm always thinking about 3 a.m. and the witching hour. That's kind of a cool hour. I don't know what I'm going to draw here. Turn this layer off. Get in here to some pencils. See if that's sharing correctly. All right. Technology, don't fail me now. And boy, it's been a couple weeks. It's been a couple weeks of trial and error with this thing, and uh, the camera settings and the technology part of this side, I thought I had it down. And when I go and watch these playbacks, they're a little pixelated. The drawing part isn't. So that's why I'm going to keep myself pretty small. But either I'm just in like really Timbuktu internet land here in southwestern Pennsylvania. All right, let's start drawing something out here. All right, so the clock stopped at 3 a.m. Let's just give it a nice head there. Actually, I'm doing it wrong. I'm not even approaching this. See what I mean? I feel totally off tonight. I feel like I just can't draw. So this is what I usually do. And I'm going to stick to it this time. Come on. Come on, Kaufman. You can do this. All right. I think it's because my pencil's not dark enough or something. All right. Usually I start with like a little thumbnail sketch of some kind. Be a little bit bigger. So I want to have this. Get in there and do that. Yeah, so when I talk about, I'm always saying sustainable creative life. There's so many people that pursue a career in comics or tattooing or whatever. And you might achieve it, but I don't know that it's very sustainable for whatever reason. It could be that you're looking for benefits, steady income, where you don't have to worry about. Let's see, it's at 3 o'clock, right? Can't even really see what I'm doing right now, but a little tiny sketch, like a little tiny thing, right? This is just kind of how I like to do the prompts every day. It's just, you can't even really make it out. But that's the fun part of this part for me is now I'll take that. I'm going to blow that up. Let's go back. Keep it kind of uniform. Let's blow it up as much as I can. All right, that's good. All right. Then I'll fade that out a little bit. And we'll just start from there as I'm going. All right. Yeah, so the sustainable career in art is not a regular reality, let's just say. And even if you do get a full time job of some kind inside of the chosen career, let's say it's animation or something like that, it's the same for almost everything. It could be fleeting. You've seen this week people being laid off at these major corporations and things like that. Imagine the people at Netflix that got laid off. They were in their dream jobs at Netflix doing animation, whatnot. And actually, I know a couple ladies that got hired at Netflix for their big animation push. And then shortly after they got hired, and they were super excited on LinkedIn, they they got fired or they got laid off. They laid off their whole animation, you know, department or whatever. Oh, I'm messing this up. Gosh. Wow. Terrible. Having a rough day. So for me, and I talk about this a lot in the newsletter or to friends and coaching and stuff. But uh, I had a 13-year stint full time doing comics, and that included, some nice things and some smaller quests, let's say, but decent pay. I think at some point, I think it's okay to say that I was probably pulling in about 80K a year doing comics and web comics and things like that. Um, and it was just a lot of grinding, though. There was a lot to do. There was licensing things. There was um, uh, all kinds of stuff like that. Let's just put a little. I think that's 3 o'clock, right? Come on, guys. All right. Yeah. Clock stopped at 3. Now we're just gonna have a little second hand. And yeah, my story, I won't go too far into it. But, anyways, it's not a very sustainable thing to have a full time career in art of any kind. So, I did take a day job back. And I think it might be the smarter move if you can find something that at least kind of uses the same creative muscles or something like that. And usually for comic book artists, they go into work like marketing or advertising or something like that. So in my case, I guess you could say marketing or growth marketing, advertising. I'm helping a lot of YouTube creators with their merchandise right now. That's kind of what I've been doing for like 10 years. Um, and I just got pretty good at that. I got pretty good at talking to creators and kind of figuring out what their channels are and things like that. So I kind of found a good fit for me. I always said I would never work a day job again, but I found something um, that worked for me, and I really enjoy it. I still enjoy it, um, and especially if you're now. My kids are all grown now, but whenever I was full time doing art, I it was tough to not have great health benefits or anything like that. The kids had some like state stuff, but I didn't have full time health benefits when I was a full time comic artist. And the insurance that I could get was very expensive. And so, I got tired also of chasing down people that owed me money, writers and publishers and licensing people. And I just hated that part of it. I just couldn't do it anymore. And I kind of, when this opportunity arose 10 years ago now for me, I took it, and it was great because my kids were all set. My wife at the time was set for insurance, and yeah, I stuck with it, and I still enjoy it. But there are days like this week in the corporate world that can be really tough and draining. So I talk to a lot of my friends that are in similar situations, whether they're musicians or tattoo artists on the side and things like that. And they have, they do a career to keep the money flowing in and the stability, but it can be challenging, especially when you're trying to build something on the side. So I started to kind of think about that differently because it used to be that um, the feeling of failure, like, well, I guess it didn't work out for me because I have to have a day job. And that's not true because I chose that. I could have stayed, you know, in the grind of freelance art and stuff like that. But I actually think after all the horror stories I've heard, uh, being around at conventions and at people, just it's very heartbreaking to hear about the health problems, the people losing their houses, you know, families getting broken up. I mean, it sounds like a nightmare. It's like I don't know why anybody would choose this. And then you see the older, generations when there's kids that are like, I want to be a cartoonist. They're like, oh, kid. you kind of start to understand what they're growling about. But I think now, and when I'm talking to other artists about this, there's no shame. I don't have any shame in saying, yeah, I have a day job, and I'm lucky that it's a creative job. It could be a very mind numbing job. I've got some friends that do art and they're in finance all day, and it's not creative. It's very numbers based, and they're even more drained at the end of the day, and they still summon the will to do their side comics and projects. And let me see something really quick here because I'm like kind of slipping my Roman numerals, guys. I'm looking up Roman numerals. That's what I want to put on this clock, and I'm like, I'm gonna mess it up if I just try to do it out of my head. How about that? All right, okay. Now we'll cheat a little bit. Um, but yeah, I tell people now. I was just talking to a guy this summer, and he was like, "I didn't really, I haven't really made it." And I'm like, "What do you mean? Your book is selling well?" He's like, "Yeah, but I have a job." He's a, I don't know if I should say what he is, but uh, well, he's an accountant, and I don't know what kind of accounting he does, but it's like a corporate type of accounting. And he's like, "Yeah, but I'm not making enough to be off his book to be a full time thing, but his book is amazing." And I was like, "No, man, that you've got it down the right way. You have this job that you can, tolerate, I guess, and you do it well." And he didn't want to leave it, but some guys even don't use their name, like they don't use their real name, or they don't say that they're like school teachers or something like that because they're afraid that someone's going to see that or think that they're a failure um, because they have a day job. And I'm like, have you seen the guy? Do you know the guys that are full time in comics? How much money they make? It's not much money, guys. Like, it's just not. I mean, artists can live pretty cheaply, so that's good. But man, um, you know, to not have the benefits and not whatever. So I guess what I'm saying is the more sustainable creative life, it's okay to have your day job and still do the things on the side, but you must do them then. So there can't be a whole lot of um, I want to do this, but I'm da 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 da. Right? Like me, for instance, where I've got a lot of projects on my plate, but I only have limited time. I wish I had more time to work on my projects, but in realistically, I don't. I have to put in sometimes 10-hour work days, and it can be challenging. And in my mind, at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm thinking, I got this. I can. I'm gonna work on my graphic novel tonight, and then tonight comes, and it's just no, it's not happening. I'm not happy with this drawing that I'm doing right now. This is not something that I would normally do live in front of somebody. I don't think, but I'm forcing myself to do it. Um, I'm taking my own advice. I also normally wouldn't be sitting here talking to myself. Um, but but I'm going to practice what I preach. And that's exactly it. I mean, this week was not my favorite week at work. And I was rethinking a lot of stuff, dealing with a lot of just things. I still like my job, mind you, but it's just not, some days just aren't jiving. And I'm sure that a lot of you out there are dealing with the same thing. So the masks that people put on, especially on social media, about how great their life is or whatever. I don't try to do that. I'm going to try to always give it to you straight. And it's challenging. I want to encourage you to draw every day. But then I'm like not drawing every day. So I couldn't do that tonight. I had to come on here and make that happen. Reading some things here real quick. Yeah, Rocky here says he definitely didn't want to post some of my prompts, but I had to. It's a way to keep pushing myself. Exactly. Not only for that, Rocky, but if it's like you're not going to get better unless you're doing it, right? And if you're not doing it, you're wasting time. And then that gets back to the beginning of this, talking about we only have so much time. And even if you thought you had more time, you might not have more time. Carlos Pacheco didn't think that he was going to get diagnosed with ALS. He thought he just had a sore back, or a pinched nerve, right? So all those things that we put off, like the daily comic strip or something, you got to find a way to do it. And when I say about a sustainable creative career, I do know other artists, and I wish I could bring them on, and maybe I'll try. Maybe I'll try to get them to come out and talk about it. They're not as public people. I don't know what I must have tapped this. My Roman numerals disappeared. Yeah, they're not as public people. They're private, and I'm not gonna, dish on them or anything like that. But I do know several professional artists that have full-time day jobs, and there's this stigma that they have that they just I don't want people to know that. They think that it makes their work less. And I'm telling them that I think it makes you smarter. One story that most people don't know, Will Eisner. If you don't know who Will Eisner is, I'm not going to grab books off the shelf, but Will Eisner, the Eisner Awards in comics are named after him. I guess pretty famous for coining like the graphic novel phrase too. Creator of the Spirits. He made the majority of his money drawing nonfiction comics for the government, not in the comic book industry. He went and did the manuals for soldiers, even after like the wartime stuff. He was still contracted with the government. He did freelance illustration work for the government, and that's where most of his work came from. So yes, he was still drawing, but it just was not in comics. And I believe he even like drew a little bit of a pension for that. So, and then he would take that money and invest it back into his side projects, let's say. But he did start out in newspapers doing the Spirit, got into the military during World War II, and then saw that, wow, this is a lot of, like, the Spirit stuff was a lot of work in the newspaper for the little bit of pay that they got. And he saw another lane. So he was a smart businessman, Will Eisner. He never lost the love for sequential art, of course, but not many people know. And I don't think he talked about it a whole lot. He didn't talk about, his other work a whole bunch. And I learned that, and I thought that was pretty fascinating. When I didn't know much about them before. And you get older and you just start learning these stories or these tales from different people. So to me, there's some guys out there, and I wish I could just name them. There's a guy on Facebook that, like, I don't know what he does actually. for a living. I think he works at like a mobile, I don't know. I think he works at a pizza shop or a mobile phone place in the mall or something. And he's got great comics, and he just jokes about like his life is comics, and he just wants to eat pizza and make comics, and he's happier than shit, and uh, I love that part of it, because in the end, I mean, if you're not, why this eraser is not okay. There we go. In the end, it's just, what are you going to spend your time on? So when I'm taking a walk, especially, I'll think about the comics part, um, the part that my wife doesn't really want me to kill myself doing, as far as being romanticizing about daily comic strips and things like that. It's a lot of work. I've tried it, even with a full time job. I tried those schedules where I'm like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to show everybody that I can kick ass, and look at this, I'm amazing. And no one really cares. And I wasn't doing it to impress anybody either. Kind of just like proving it to myself. Um, there's a framework, a mental model, they call it, that really successful business guys use. As a matter of fact, I didn't think I'd talk about Jeff Bezos tonight, but the mental model known as regret minimalization is what made Jeff Bezos decide to start Amazon. So he had a really cushy job in Wall Street, and he was very comfortable. And he had the idea for Amazon, and he kind of knew inside that it would work, just in his heart of hearts. Everybody else thought he was crazy. So he took his boss aside, and he was like, hey, yo, I'm going to do this thing, this crazy thing where I'm going to sell books on the internet. And his boss took him for a walk and said, Jeff, that sounds like a great idea, but not for somebody that has a day job. And and so Jeff Bezos was like, yeah, you're right. So he went home and talked to his wife, and he said, uh, hey, I'm going to do this crazy thing. And his wife had married him, and he had this cushy job on Wall Street. And here's he is saying he's going to do this crazy thing. And she said, I'm all in. I'm with you. Most artists don't get that. You don't get that kind of support. But his wife, Jeff Bezos, was like, hey, let's do it. Kind of worked out for her, right? But anyways, he said that his main decision was based on regret minimization. And that is when he thought to himself in the future, 80 years old, on his deathbed, what would he regret not doing it? Or would he regret, even if he did it and he failed at it, would he regret failing at it? No. But if he had never tried doing it, he would have regretted that. And that kind of hit me hard this week when I read that somewhere on the internet. And I thought, man, God dang it. But I have tried to do daily adventure strips. It's just that nobody wants that anymore. Nobody, and I don't really care that nobody wants it anymore. I still want to do it. And I want to try to figure out how to redo it or bring people with me to do it. And most people that hang around me long enough know that I'm trying to get you to draw 4-panel comic strips and things. And yeah. But the regret minimization mental model, Jeff Bezos did not make it up. He just used it to make his decision to quit his job and go do that thing. And it really worked out for him. Now, another mental model is the 80-20, the Pareto principle. And that kind of says that like 80% of your results are coming from 20% of your actions, and everything else is just a waste. And it works out in nature that like 80% of your friends suck and 20% of them are good. And you should just keep focus on 20%. So it's always 80-20. If you're a little, like if they say, well, if you're overweight, probably 20% of something that you're doing bad in your health is contributing to 80% of your unhealthiness, let's say. And I guess this really does work out with science. So they do this with marketing, they do this with all kinds of data stuff. And if you can figure out what part, and so to me, I'm trying to apply that to comics too. When you think of the 80-page graphic novel that people start and never finish, I think, well, wait a minute, you can still get the reward of telling a story in 4 panels a little over a time and get that hit of, feeling about doing it without waiting for 80 pages that no one's going to like read, or they're going to blast through it or something like that. Or you're going to feel like you failed and you didn't finish it. But if you're doing like a 4-panel storytelling over time and releasing those in little bits, you're getting some sort of satisfaction as you go, and you can kind of twist it and turn it. And that's what the old comic strip artists did. Milton Caniff and all these other legendary guys, Scorchy, Noel Sickles, and Alex Raymond. They all kind of worked in that way. They had a loose plot, and they just kind of figured it out as they went, and they really fed off of their readers. They loved the fan mail, and that's what webcomics were to me. When I was doing webcomics full time, there was always this give and take between the readers, the haters, the lovers of it, and it just kind of energized it and kept it going. Webcomics kind of has fallen off from that, the way that it used to be back in my day of webcomics. So webtoons and stuff like that just don't have that same vibe as the original webcomics that were out there. I can't quite explain it. I can't quite put my finger on it. But there was an energy in the excitement of webcomics and back then. And somebody, I think 1999, 2001, 2002, when I'd started doing stuff for like Brian Lynch and things like that online. But there was also, right before that, there were people that were doing just pop up like, hey, we're this collective of this, and we're making adventure comics over here. And they were just doing it. And now it just feels like everybody's just stuck in social media and TikTok and Instagram and like, but I realized beyond breaking it down into 4 panels, which is satisfying for me as a creator, there was also the idea of what about just the panel? Like, what about just the drawing here? So just a drawing a day actually kind of still satisfied that weird craving that I had inside to produce something every day. So I think in a way the draw every day thing kind of helps me feed that monster inside of me that I feel like I need to produce something every day. A couple nights ago, I think, and I'm just going to be totally transparent here, is I was on the couch, and I think I wasn't feeling bad for myself, but I was saying something like I just felt like I wasn't getting much done. And my wife's like, you're crazy, man. You just did this and you just did that, and you just finished a children's book. You just put on this big project with everybody, the Promptober thing. You drew every day for that. You're still drawing the drawing prompts. You put out a new drawing prompt thing. Like, I'm doing more than most people do. And I still felt like it wasn't enough. She said it was a sickness that I had. And I said, no, when I read this book about Lou Gehrig, and she's like, well, you're not Lou Gehrig. And I'm like, I know I'm not Lou Gehrig, but what am I doing? What am I doing today? What am I wasting my time with? And she just says what let's just say the normal people will say to you as an artist It's okay to take a break. It's okay to re-energize yourself, and it's okay to not do anything. To me personally, I don't like that. I don't like that feeling of not doing anything. And I don't know why that is. It's just a personal thing. Because like, and honestly, if I'm not actively working on a project, I'm kind of slowly driving myself crazy. So what I've tried to do now is, if I'm in a place between projects where I'm just deciding what I want to do, and I feel myself stuck, like, oh, gonna go spend some time, quality time with other people or something, I can always just kind of, I'm there, but I'm not there, if that makes sense. And I think that's one of the fun things of being an artist, is you can kind of entertain yourself with your imagination in your own mind. So nothing is boring to you if you activate that part of your brain. So I think all of my adult life I've done that. And I've never really talked about that out loud. It's not that I don't want to go spend time with people and sit on a beach or go on a family vacation or anything like that. It's just that inside I have a lot of ideas. I have a lot of story ideas. I'm always thinking about characters. Um, people, I'm good at hiding this now, because I noticed that other people were observing me do it, especially my wife now. She would catch me staring off into something, and she'd say, where are you right now?" And I'd say, "What? What do you mean?" She said, "You're just staring off into space right now. Where are you? Like, what are you thinking about?" And I said, "Okay, do you really want to know?" And we were on a date at the time. Um, and she said, "Yeah, what are you thinking about? You're just staring off into nothing." And I said, "Well, I'm looking at that beer case over there. It was like a wall of glass, beer bottles and things, and it had colored lights and all that stuff in it, and it was really pretty to look at night. And I was thinking to myself, how would I draw that?" So, um, how would I use color in that? Like, what would I put down as the base color? And like, that's how my brain is always going. And I've talked to some other artists about this too, and they get it. They're like, "Yeah, I do that. I do that." I'm better at hiding it now, uh, in my 40s, than when I was a space cadet, probably as a kid, or even in my 20s when I was really checked out sometimes. Uh, or, I'll just kind of like listen to, uh, might sound crazy, but you're like, I'm listening to the characters. I'm listening to the story in my mind. Like, I'm listening to what's coming through. That sounds crazy, but I can do that anywhere. I can do that almost at any time. It's a nice imagination game to play, as well. But that's how my brain is always working. It's also really great for boring meetings at work when you shouldn't be on a meeting, and you're like, "This has nothing to do with me. I'm gonna, I'm now gonna think about some story I'm gonna write one day." uh, yeah. So I think that a lot of other artists can relate to what I'm saying, but not a lot of non-artists can relate to what I'm saying. I don't want to say normal people, because it's not that artists aren't normal. Um, but I've had common folk tell me like, "Oh, that's not great. You need to make sure you're present with the people around you that you love." Of course I am. It's just that my brain works differently. It works quite a bit differently. When I'm looking at things, I'm observing things. Artists are looking at the world differently, um, how to craft it and see it. And you mix all of that with the idea of a sense of your time is very limited. So how do we spend our time? Or people will come to me at shows, or I just got an email this week from, I don't know how old the person is, but just the very common message is like, how do I do this for a living? And I don't know how to answer that. Because usually the next thing that they say is they don't have time. And that just drives me insane, because I think we all have plenty of time. You just got to really want to do the art. You have to really want to be drawing or want to be producing art. And I'm not dissing you if you're not, but people that really say, I want to do this full time, or I want to do this seriously, do you? Because if you did, you're going to just unplug your freaking TV. You're not going to do that anymore. You may read some books or absorb some things, but you're not going to be going out with friends. There's not going to be a lot of like weekend party time. Forget about Call of Duty or whatever. It's about putting in the work on your craft. And I think for the full-time people that I know, it's a slippery slope of, it can be dangerous. You might get lost in it, and that's all you want to do, and you barely leave your house. That's not healthy either. So you have to definitely find a balance if you're looking to do this. But if you're just starting out, you got to get serious, and that's part of the idea of drawing every day. And here I am, I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with this drawing that I did today. This is the prompt for today. This is, what's it called? It's called The Clock Stopped at 3 a.m. And like I said, I just wasn't, the rest of the world around me this week was just kind of like, oh man, I suck. I'm no good. Like, this drawing is terrible. That's what I'm thinking right now. And everything else I drew, I didn't post. I didn't share. I didn't show anything. I almost made some reels this week. I almost picked up a couple things of old projects, and I just wasn't feeling it. And it was because of the rest of the world kind of pulling me in, and I started to listen to that kind of negative voice inside. I think you can silence that voice for a long time, but it'll just creep back up, and you got to be mindful of that. So I did force myself to come on this stream tonight. I was going to just stay on the couch or just stay chilling. And like I said, I thought about Carlos Pacheco. I thought about Luke Gehrig. I thought about some of my other friends that are not here anymore. And I thought, man, what am I doing? This is what I want to do. Like, I want to draw. I want to talk to other artists. People are asking me to do more of these talks. I don't know. I don't really know why. Anyone would want to listen to me talk about these things for hours. But I think in a way it does something for me too, to just show up and be here and show you, or maybe it inspires you to kind of show up and do whatever you're doing. You don't have to get on a live stream, and you don't have to have fancy tools or anything like that. You just need to show up in a sketchbook every day, or work on that little project that you're working on, your side quest, as the artist Andy J. Pizza calls them, side quests, not side hustles. And yeah, that's all you have to do, is show up, and not even in front of anybody. You just got to show up for yourself. And I'll try to keep doing that too. So I'm glad that I got on tonight and drew this really terrible picture of a clock. But that's okay. Again, I think that's fine. I even tell other people, like, you're not going to be happy with your own work sometimes. Will I post this? Probably not. I mean, well, here it is. It's on a stream. You can see it here. I doubt that I'll post this anywhere. Yeah, you can start to just kind of spiral into unhappiness. I'm not happy with the stream dropping out every couple minutes here on a perfectly fine connection of 20 megabyte upload speeds. Uh, there should be no dropouts. I don't know if this is StreamYard doing this now or if it's YouTube doing it. I don't know. I don't like that part because I put a lot of time and effort into getting technology set up, and now it looks like I can even see it right now. I can see this little meter that dropped my speed down. There's absolutely nothing else going on. So that technical part is stupid. I just want to draw things live on the internet with people and talk about things, and I got to look all pixelated and stuff. I don't like that. Yeah. You could, yeah, it's like a tech that tech nightmare problem can just really drain, can feel like work too. Like, man, I did so much back and forth of sample tests and things on these stupid streams. But it's a learning process, and I feel good about it. You get excited because you're like, I figured it out now, right? And I feel like that's the same thing with something that you can't draw. Like, I figured out hands, or I figured out how to draw horses, or panel composition. You finally figured that out. You finally figured out some trick to make your panels more dynamic or your storytelling more dynamic. Those kind of riddles are the things that you should be really trying to figure out, not how to do a live stream or be some influencer, or worrying about social media stuff. It's great to build an audience. It's great to have people paying attention and watching you. But if you're not doing the actual work, it doesn't even matter, right? So, all right, we're closing in here on an hour. So I probably will check out for the evening. If you popped in to listen, or if you're listening to the replay, thanks for listening. So it's kind of a weird one. You know, I didn't think I'd be talking about people passing away, or Carlos Pacheco, or even Lou Gehrig, a baseball guy, but it was on my mind this week. Yeah. And for the people that are waiting for their Promptober prizes, we're packaging those all up. Some of them are on their way. I do see the folks out there that are already using some of the drawing prompts from the drawing prompt pack. So that's cool. I'm checking in on the Instagram tag. What is it? Hashtag? Yeah. If you want to go see some other people's drawings, it's hashtag draw or die club over on Instagram. There's some guys over there doing it. So that's pretty cool. I saw some on TikTok as well. I haven't had much time to actually be on social media this week without falling down a rabbit hole. So I've kind of avoided that a little bit too. So hopefully this coming week will be much different. And yeah, I think that's a wonderful little evening of chatting. Again, rest in peace to Carlos Pacheco and all our other friends who have gone to the other side. That is it. That is it for this episode. I'm going to close this out. And I will be editing these and putting these a little bit more cleaner and audio edited for like Spotify and stuff like that. That's another thing I got to do. So that people can kind of just listen in on Spotify without watching me pixelated on your screen right now. So that's it. If you're listening, please stay encouraged out there. Make sure you try to draw every day. If you're not drawing every day, do like I just did. Drag your ass to a drawing board and do it. Draw a terrible drawing even. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be completely not good. But you got to get all those not good drawings out of you before the good ones come. So until next time, stay encouraged, and I will see you very soon